Hello, everybody. So, we're going to have a very straightforward conversation today about the phrase, charge what you're worth. And I used to say this too, because that was my way of saying, along with a lot of the other people in the belly dance world or in any professional industry, and even beyond that, to say charge what you're worth so that way you can charge more and believe that someone should pay for your services. But what I want to offer you today is to not say charge what you're worth. Don't tell yourself that anymore. This is the problem with saying that. You are collapsing your self-worth with price. But that's not why people will buy or pay for what you're offering. They will pay or buy what you're offering because of the value you are offering and what it means to them. Is it valuable to them? So the right question, or the one, not even the right question, but the one that's more helpful to ask is what I'm offering valuable in their eyes? Do they see that I can help them? Do they see that my product or service is valuable to them and what they're looking for? Because when you collapse your self-worth or worthiness with pricing, it opens up a whole new world of concerns, challenges, difficulties, hardship, and a lot of fucking doubt. And I see this all the time, and I've been thinking about this for a little bit, and it hit me, and I was like, how come that phrase just doesn't settle with me? And it's because when you collapse the two, your self-worth now becomes dependent upon this external thing, versus really taking on the idea that your self-worth is independent of anything. And that you have it regardless of whatever you are up to, whatever you do, whatever is happening in the world. It is non-negotiable. It just is. You have self-worth. You are enough. You belong. You are lovable. And when we collapse that with pricing, it makes us question when people don't pay what we're charging. Or it makes us feel like they're paying this, so that makes me worth it. So let me give a clear example upon this. You charge, let's say, $150 to do a 15 to 20 minute performance. Whatever you're feeling on the prices, it doesn't really matter right now. But what ends up happening is if someone pays you that amount for your performance, you're like, oh, I'm charging the right amount. It's worth it for them. It's worth it for me. I'm worth this price. However, if you see that someone is not paying that price for the services that you're offering, you're like, oh my God, am I not worth it? Am I not good enough? Do I need to add more things in? Do I need to way overcompensate for the self-doubt that you're feeling because someone is not buying what you thought was charging what you're worth? And now you're questioning, you're having self-doubt, you're ruminating in thoughts, you're just constantly thinking and dialoguing. Is taking so much mental energy, and it's effing exhausting. People don't buy what you offer based on whether or not you're worth it. They want to know, can you help them? How fast can you help them? What are they actually buying? And do they trust you to fulfill upon your part of the transaction, on your part of the deal? That's why someone is paying you, because they find what you're offering is valuable to them, not what you think is valuable to you, what they think is valuable to them. And so we need to learn how to separate this, because in collapsing the two, it becomes a huge issue. You start getting in your head thinking that I am charging the right price, this is what I'm worth, or I'm not charging the right price, or I need to overcompensate because people are not buying for it. I think what we truly mean to put behind this is bridging that gap between having self-worth and offering something that's valuable to your client The bridge between those two is whether or not you believe that what you are offering is valuable without doubt, without questioning whether or not this will contribute to the other person based on their point of view. It's all about the belief behind what you offer. Do you believe that this is the thing they need that can help them? Do you believe that this is the thing that they need to make their event like stellar and fulfill their vision of what they want? But that belief wavers when we tie it with self-worth, when we tie it with know your worth, charge what you're worth. It's not the question or the sentence that will really separate how you can really charge for the value that you offer and then leave your self-worth independent of that. It makes it really hard to separate that when we keep saying charge what you're worth. Don't charge what you're worth. Your worth is non-negotiable, like I mentioned earlier. It is not something to be charged for. What you're charging for is the value that you offer, and is it valuable to them in their eyes that they're willing to pay you for it? That is the key here. So I want to encourage you to stop saying charge what you're worth, stop telling other people to charge what you're worth, because now you're also subscribing to the idea that you should charge something based on where your current level of self-confidence and self-worth is. And let me tell you, as someone who has experienced my self-worth wavering over years, I'm going to present what I'm selling differently based on if I'm feeling good about myself that day versus will this help you or not, and leaving my self-worth out of it. I think this is such an important dialogue, especially because our culture teaches us to really you're only worth it if you make it. You're only worth it if people want what you have. No, you're worth it just because. And independent of your self-worth, what is your business? What are you offering? How are you going to help people? Do they know what they're buying into? How fast can you get them results? How fast can you give them what they want? How efficient is it? What's their experience going to be by working with you? But when we collapse it, we can't offer that. Also, the other thing I've found is that when you start to collapse the two, you start to really question what you're doing. Like when you don't get paid, or when you think everything is charged based on what you're worth, you question everything. Should I charge more? Should I give more? Am I worth it? Should I continue belly dancing? Should I still be a belly dance teacher? Right? It just challenges everything. And then it makes it challenging. So the last thing that I want to offer you is that, remember when I said earlier, it is the belief, your belief behind whether or not you think that what you're offering is valuable. Do you believe 100%, or do you waver with how you're feeling that day, right? So when you're really cultivating this belief, when you're building the ability to stand behind your product or service or what you're giving to this other person in exchange for the compensation, when you're building that belief, it can be more difficult to build that belief in what you give to someone else when you're questioning whether or not you're worth it, because now your belief is still tied to your worthiness as a person. So we have to separate that out, because they are two independent things, but we are conflating the two all the time. When you are really 100% in that you have self-worth and it is independent of everything, then you can start to believe what you offer is really, truly valuable to the person you're offering it to. Because then you're not basing that belief or that person's response on anything, and it's not a reflection or validation of your self-worth. So the faster we can separate the two, the more empowered you can be to believe in what you're doing is valuable to them, and the more that you can actually sell and help them in solving their problem as to why they want you. So they will see that as valuable if you're selling to your audience and the right people whom you serve, right? They will see that what you're offering is valuable based also on what you think about what you're offering. And when that's tied to self-worth, it becomes really hard to separate the two, because you're still waiting for that external validation to tell you whether or not ultimately you're worth it. Let's separate it. If you're having any trouble doing this or implementing it, or you want to learn the tools on how to do it, then I want you to schedule a free 15-minute consultation with me, because I will start to show you where you are now and where you can get, so that way you can learn to separate the two and truly step into what is it that I offer and how can I be the best teacher, the best performer, the best student, right? All of it for yourself. So if you want help on implementing how to separate the two, schedule a 15-minute consultation call with me. I want to help you bridge that gap, connect the two together so that way you can separate them for good. I look forward to seeing you soon. I'd love to hear your comments below. Share your thoughts with me, and I'll see you next time.